Hey, third Sen, a very good evening. Today we would be studying about WBH. Also, to clarify all those who were not present, that people we have decided that we would be studying a few things through these audio lectures or maybe some online classes in other ways, and then whatever things are there which are very crucial and they need a lot of attention that we would be covering in the class, so it would save a lot of time to us and we would be able to cover much syllabus that way. So, not many students were present when we had this discussion. So, I'm just clarifying this. So, right now, we would be studying WBH. And in case you have any question, any query, or कुछ भी समझ में नहीं आता, then I'm always there. We would be meeting in the classes. Then you can text me or, you can put your questions on the group and everything. So, I don't think that would be a problem for any one of us. So, directly getting to the WBH, you have to picture one thing, right? Again, one thing to add on, we already have read Philip Larkin. We all know what modern age was, what modernist moments were, and all those things. I have taught you, Alpana ma'am taught you, and I guess most of the professors might have taught you the same thing. So before you get into this lecture, I really want you to please go through the notes you have made or whatever pointers you have had, and then come to this lecture. That might help you because again and again I'm not going to tell the same thing. That would be a waste of time. So please एक बार उसको check करके then come here. So coming directly to the WBH, please picture one thing. You are living in a world that's constantly changing. And I don't think that's really hard for you to picture because we are actually living in such world. We often have this discussion in the class that how world is changing, how the generation is changing. Every one of us maybe are like 1999 or 2000 or 2001 born, but when we see the people who were born in 2005 2010, they're so much ahead of us. And then when we see the people who were born in 1990s or not even 1990s, even 1995 1996, we feel that, oh, we are so much better than them. We have better hand in technology, we have better understanding of the fashion, of the sense of humor and everything. And then we have the generation, those who were born in 2000, like even if I say 2015 16, they people are so much ahead of us. Like they know so much better than us. So the world is exactly changing right now. Everything is getting updated every day, maybe the technology, the sense of humor of the people. How you see, when there were the few things who were taboo in the society, now people are adapting this thing called dark humor and everything. Like there are few things for us even today which are taboo, then we have the a younger generation coming, they flaunt the same things. So the generation is of course changing, the word is constantly changing. Same was with WBA, so you have to kind of picture these things and it's not very difficult, I guess. It will give you a better understanding only. So like just imagine living in a world that's constantly changing and old beliefs are fading and new ideas are shaking up everything. The same is happening right now. And in the middle of all, there's this guy. Who is this guy? WB Yeats. People, when I say about WB Yeats, Yeats isn't just a poet. He is like the bridge, a bridge between the ancient world of myths and the modern world of politics and turmoil, the constantly changing in the technology and everything. So today, when we are diving into the Yeats, we would definitely understand why he writes what he writes, and how sometimes his mystic life and everything came into the picture, and we would be discussing about all those things. So Yeats was born in Dublin in 1865. So just imagine it, Victorian Ireland, full of folklores and legends about fairies, warriors, and ancient king. And his father was a painter, which meant that young Yeats was surrounded by arts and creativity from all the start. He was also from the Siligo, this special specific place where his imagination comes from. like when we will go ahead, we would understand that Yeats was an imaginist. Like he used to imagine things. He was a poet. It feels like he's coming from the future. Whatever he has predicted, or whatever he has said in those poetries, same is happening today. So it feels like he's a poet that is coming from the future. And the Saligo and his father being a painter, everything played a great role in that. But being so much, he wasn't exactly a school genius. Instead of maths or history, he was captivated by the Irish mythology. So while other kids were maybe playing sports or learning grammar, Yeats was nose deep into the tales of gods and those magical legends. And now Yeats was not an ordinary poet, people. He was totally fascinated by this magic and supernatural. Could you imagine joining a secret society to study these mystical practices? Today we have so much, like, I'm just not getting its name. I would definitely tell you this thing called Illuminati, right? So Illuminati is like a secret society and all those things जहाँ पे बहुत सारी mystical practices आपको सिखाई जाती हैं. Same was with the W.B. Yeats, and that is what exactly he did. He joined such society, not Illuminati, of course, but something at his time. So he became a member of Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn. And ये तुम्हें खुद ही mysterious नहीं लगता, where he learned about the magic, the occult, and the mystical traditions. And now you may question why. Because he believed that poetry could reveal the hidden truth about life and the soul. So when you read Yeats' poem, you often find symbols like little puzzles, clues to the mysteries he believed were all around us. And same happens with the songs today, right? I told you, like, you can so much relate with whatever is happening today in society. Same used to happen then be. So I get कोई तो singer है, because I'm not into the songs, but I have read, like, heard it in the podcast and all. This Beyonce, or I don't know which singer is there. I'm not at all aware about the name, but they give some hidden symbols in their songs and everything, जिससे तुम्हें बहुत सारी चीज़ों का पता चलता है. And same is what with Yeats. He used to believe in the same ideology and the theory. Now, there was this lady in his life, Maud Gone, and we could call her his muse and his sorrow. So here enters the Maud Gone, the ultimate lady he wanted to start his life with. She was a striking, passionate revolutionary. Picture of fearless women leading rallies and fighting for the Irish independence. Yeats fell for her very hard, but despite of proposing her several times, she never married him. Ouch, that hurts, right? But instead of moving on, Yeats turned his heartbreak into the art. And Maud became his muse, someone who used to inspire him a lot. And that particular Morgon has inspired a lot of his poetries. And you can think of her as a symbol of Ireland itself, right? Beautiful, wild, and something out of reach. Yeah. Yeats just didn't write the poems. He wanted, like, because he wanted to write, मतलब ऐसे फ्री में नहीं लिख रहे थे कि just because I'm passionate about writing, or because of Morgon or everything like that. No, he had a deeper reason for that. He wanted to bring Ireland's culture and spirit of life back. Because तुम्हें पता है colonization हो रहा था, everyone was a colony of British. He wanted this island to be independent, and he felt that even India bhi, we have lost so many of our traditions, so many of our beliefs which of colonization happened. Same was with the Ireland. Ireland was losing its own folklores, its own tradition and everything. And Yeats was the person who wanted to bring its tradition back. So he wanted to bring the culture and the spirit of life back. So he had some friend, and he and like some of his friends were there. They kind of started a Irish literary revival. Think of it as a cultural comeback tour. So they aim to revive old Irish stories, give them a new life, and celebrate their heritage. So this was also around the time they founded this Abbey Theatre in Dublin. So amphitheater basically, guys, was a place where they could perform plays and tell Irish stories to the world. And Yeats believed that art could be a powerful way for Ireland to find its voice and to take pride in its dignity. Now let's talk about the historical context and its impact on the Yeats world. Also, I want to clarify, if तुम्हें कुछ भी नहीं समझ में आता है, please ask me in the class or maybe put your questions on the group or just text me, ठीक है? So please don't understand if I'm teaching you this way, you're missing a lot onto it. No, not at all. You can just always give me the timestamps and ask. Like sometimes it might happen, like whenever we record our voice or something, especially with me, it happens a lot. uh, we don't understand कि exactly क्या बोला है, तो please आप मुझे बता दें and I will be clarifying it. Coming back to the historical context and the impact, like impact of that historical context on Yeats' cover. So, as I have just talked, that not Irish, Ireland was under the British rule, and a lot of people wanted this independence. This created a tense and a heated atmosphere that Yeats was very aware of. Even if he wasn't out there fighting himself like a soldier, but he was aware of everything. Then in 1916 came the Easter Rain, a rebellion against a British rule. Many rebels were killed, and Yeats was really shaken, guys. He wrote Easter. Easter is like Easter, 1916, a powerful tribute to those who would fought. So it's a poem full of mixed emotions, emotions like pride, like self sadness and respect. And Yeats wasn't a revolutionary, again I would be telling, but he was deeply connected to the Ireland. And this poem shows how conflicted he felt when this scenario happened. And Yeats lived through the World War One, a time that shattered people's sense of stability. We have already discussed it earlier in the class, and you might be knowing what were the horrors of the World War. And the horrors of the war left people like feeling lost, confused, and kind of hopeless, right? We were discussing it the other day. मतलब जब भी we had this discussion about the modern age and everything कि how people felt annihilated, you know, like कि this is nothing and this world is not worth living, कोई like you just have to die and all those things we have discussed it. So Yeats saw this chaos as a part of a cycle. This is very important, okay? It's like a cycle, a pattern of history called gyres, gyres, gyres. So imagine history moving in these big spirals. उस दिन मैंने तुम्हें बताया भी था, I like made this figure on the blackboard, whiteboard, whatever. If you remember कि Yeats इसके बारे में बहुत बात करते हैं, when we'll come to Yeats हमें ये समझ में आएगा जायर का theory, if you remember or you could relate. So again से I will be telling you जब हम discuss करेंगे क्लास में. So imagine history moving into these big spiral shapes where order turns into chaos and back again. So ऐसे गोल गोल करके स्पायरल्स होते हैं. आई वुड बी टेलिंग यू, अभी के लिए तुम जायर्स याद रखो, एंड ऑल्सो प्लीज हैव like search it on the Google, you would be getting the images and everything. So for Yeats, World War One symbolized the end of era and the start of something darker that is very much unknown. And it's a very interesting theory. You would be falling in love with this जब हम पढ़ेंगे Byzantium and sailing to Byzantium, इसके बारे में बहुत अच्छे से बात करते हैं. Up comes modernism. Here's where things get a bit interesting. You know about modernism actually. But modernism was this new literary movement. अभी जिनको नहीं पता, I'm just छोटे से में covering it. So modernism, guys, was this new literary movement where writer tried to make sense of changing the world. हमने मैक्स पॉन्डे के बारे में बात किया था, हाउ दे फॉर्म द सोसाइटी एंड दे सेड कि लैंग्वेज ये होनी चाहिए, ये होना चाहिए, बोले. You all have gone through the same thing, so please visit your notes. And everyone was feeling disoriented, so the writers like T.S. Eliot and James Joyce started experimenting with their work. Yeats was the part of this moment, but he had his own style. So instead of focusing on the bleakness of modern life, he looked to the ancient symbols and myths. So remember Sligo, Dublin, he was very much associated with his roots, and he wanted the Irish culture to prevail and not die, and he did not want it to British or any other culture impact their culture or overshadow their culture. So he took these ancient symbols and myths and he was just busy promoting them, not promoting in the actual sense, but he wanted people to be aware of them. So for Yeats, myths were like maps that could help us to navigate through the madness. ठीक है. Now we have its poems. हमारे पास तीन चार poems हैं. Leda and the Swan. If I had to talk in very short about these poems. So, okay, so let's talk about this Greek mythology. Abhi, you all are aware how much he was into mythology and everything. And I'm getting like ऐसे बहुत थोड़ा सा explanation I'm giving and deeply analyze हम class में करेंगे. So in this poem, Yeats retells the story of Zeus. Zeus is the supreme god, like the head god in the Greek mythology, who transforms into a swan and attacks Leda, which eventually leads to the birth of the Helen of the Troy and which led to the Trojan War. Helen of the Troy and Trojan War के बारे में I guess I have discussed a little with you जब आप first semester में थे. Trojan Wars is a very interesting movie. You can watch it जब भी time हो, तो you'll get to know about history and everything. बाकी I will be telling you in the class about Helen and all. So Yeats is making a big point here about how single moment of violence or passion can shape history forever. Just an instinct, people, and everything change. Like had that incident had not happened, had Helen not born, had and War would not never have taken the place, right? So ये बस छोटा सा instinct, छोटा सा passion कैसे change करता है, कैसे shape करता है पूरी history को, ये इन्होंने बताया है. And this isn't just a myth. For Yeats, it's a symbol of how historical spirals, when I say it means that gyre wala cheese, how spirals and cures leading to the change and sometime for the worse. और उनकी एक पता लाइन भी है, लाइक इट्स अ वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट लाइन, डिस्कस करेंगे ऑफ कोर्स हम. सो इट वाज एक्चुअली डिड शी पुट ऑन हिज नॉलेज विद हिज पावर बिफोर द indifferent break could left her job. So what Yeats is asking here is whether Leda gained the wisdom from the encounter. It's almost like he's saying, do we really learn anything from history's violent moment or not? uh, where this is coming from the world war, from the chaos he was looking at, from the Easter, everything. So it's a heavy question, but it's something that can make us think about our own times, right? उसके बाद when I like हमारे syllabus में second coming है. So this poem was written after World War One, and it feels like a warning bell. Yeats described a word where the center cannot hold. उसकी starting की second third line यही है, the center could not hold, cannot or could not, and things are spinning out of control. It feels like call for helplessness, like someone is very helpless, a bit of like watching a storm and knowing there's nothing you can do to stop it. Sometimes we saw those videos जब भी flood आता है या कुछ भी होता है, people are standing and looking and watching the people जो कहीं पे mid of the river में है, and they cannot do anything. They're looking that lives are, people are dying and बहुत कुछ chaotic हो रहा है, but they cannot do anything about it. The same comes here. We are very much helpless. We cannot do anything to stop it. And this is where his gyre theory comes again. Yeats thought that history is moving into dark and new era, and we cannot do anything about it. And this poem reflects that fear of what is coming next. And sometimes we even as I discuss, na, mazak mein, if you remember, when we talk about those two kids making the videos on Instagram, and we like, आगे की generation का क्या ही होने वाला है? Like they're not going to the schools and doing all sort of nonsense things and making stupid videos on the Instagram. But can we do anything about it? No, we cannot. And same as with the kids. So यहाँ पर भी बहुत ऐसे important lines हैं. जब भी एक जो उनका इमेजिनेशन आता है फ्रॉम सिलेगो, दैट मिस्टिक बॉक्स था, वहाँ से व्हाट रफ बीस्ट इज इट्स आर कम अराउंड एट लास्ट, स्काउचेस टूवर्ड्स द बेथलेम टू बी बॉर्न. सो अभी जब ये रफ बीस्ट की बात करते हैं, इट्स हाफ ह्यूमन और half like there's some animal, I'm forgetting its name, I'm really sorry for that. Maybe lion, yeah, lion, right. So it's kind of a rough beast that represents Yeats' dread about the future. और फिर वो स्प्रिटिसमन डाई के बारे में बात करते हैं, सो यहाँ से भी इनकी इंस्पिरेशन आती है, एंड ही डजंट नो व्हाट्स कमिंग, बट ही इज प्रिटी श्योर whatever is coming, it's not good at all. And for the world coming out of the war, this would deeply relatable fear, right? Sorry. उसके बाद आता है उसके बाद आता है सेलिंग टू Byzantium. ठीक है, सो हेयर Yeats इज टॉकिंग अबाउट एजिंग एंड लॉजिंग फॉर समथिंग इटर्नल, सो लाइक लॉन्गिंग फॉर समथिंग इटर्नल, राइट. बात करते हैं कि हाउ नो वन केयर्स अबाउट द ओल्ड एज एंड एवरीथिंग. सो Byzantium, again he brings it into the picture, an ancient city that symbolizes a place of lasting art and wisdom. And Yeats contrasts the world of youth with the timeless world of art. If you have read Keats, Keats में एक पोम है अर्न वाली. Okay, so this urn पे pictures are being crafted and everything. So वहाँ से you can relate it over there कि how art is eternal and it never dies and everything. Saying he wants to escape his aging body and become something permanent. And what is permanent? The art. Okay, so I got the name Grecian Urn, Ode to Grecian Urn. So Grecian Urn पे भी he tells कि how beautiful it is and everything. So यहाँ पर भी he tells कि I want to be a piece of art, something that would never age, would be always like that, so beautiful. So right. So key line इसका ये है, देखो, aged man is but a partly thing, a tattered cold upon his stick. ये अच्छी poem है, you would find it interesting. All his poems are interesting actually, but it's kind of थोड़े oxymorons भी हैं यहाँ पर. You will love it when we'll analyze it, I'm sure. So Yeats feel like old is an empty shell, but he sees art as a way to live beyond that. It's like he's saying, I may age, but my words can live forever. इसका metaphorical meaning पे अगर जाओगे. Uh, yeah, okay. So we have then No Second Troy again. This one about is Morgon, love of his life. And again, the woman who broke his heart, and he compared her to the Helen of Troy. Beautiful, passionate, but someone who's a bit dangerous. And he admires her, but he also feels very frustrated with her because he's obsessed with her, and there are so many political causes and all that, and it's like he's asking could she have been any different. And she's very fiery and impossible, and Yeats both loves her and somewhere he is not very much happy with her. और इसकी की लाइन्स हैं why what could she have done being what she is. Yeah, it's almost struggling over here, saying that just like Troy was destined to fall, maybe Maud is destined to be this way, and it's kind of, it's he has to accept that it's nature and everything. So in short, I would say last में कि Yeats was a poet who used symbols, myth, and even his own heartbreak to explore some of the biggest questions about life, history, and the future as well. And when we read his poems, we're not just reading Yeats' world, we're exploring our own fear. जैसे कि शेक्सपियर में होता है ना कि शेक्सपियर के कैरेक्टर्स नहीं आता, लाइक लिविंग ह्यूमन बीइंग. सेम हैपेंस विद द WB8. जब हम इनको पढ़ते हैं, I don't know it's with every generation or not, but आज के scenario में there's so much relatable. It really feels like people we are exploring our own fear, our own hopes, the strange cycle that history keeps on repeating. So I am pretty sure whenever we will be analyzing his poems, you will be finding it very, very, you know, engaging and very interesting as well, because it feels like we are, you know, looking or peeking into the part of our own life. All right, so this was about Yeats. Now comes the role of the critiques. What critiques say about W.B. Yeats? Let's start with T.S. Eliot. सबको पता है इनके बारे में. I don't have to tell you a lot about him. आपने उनकी पोम पढ़ी है, Wasteland, Perfect, and all that. So, T.S. Eliot and he had this admiration for Yeats' mastery of symbolism. Symbolism we have already discussed in the class, right? So I don't have to tell you again. Please, that is why I told you, please go through the notes before coming to this lecture. So, T.S. Eliot, another key modernist poet, praised Yeats for his ability to use symbol and mythology to express the universal theme. And Eliot believed that Yeats had a unique power to combine personal emotion with timeless symbol. Like, अभी बहुत नॉर्मल सी बात है, हाउ कुड योर पर्सनल इमोशंस बी यूनिवर्सल, राइट? अभी व्हाट आई एम फीलिंग दिस कुड नॉट बी यूनिवर्सल, और व्हाट यू आर फीलिंग ये यूनिवर्सल फीलिंग हो ही नहीं सकती है. बट येट्स हैज़ दिस पावर कि वो अपनी पर्सनल फीलिंग को यूनिवर्सल सिम्बॉलिज्म में कन्वर्ट कर देते थे. एंड दिस इज़ वॉट मेड हिज पोइट्री बोथ इंटेंसली प्राइवेट and universally relatable. And this is a very important line. अगर आप लिख के आएंगे तो definitely you're going to get good marks. And then Yeats' influence on modernism, Eliot ने उसको ऐसे देखा था कि it is very essential to the modernist movement, and you know, nothing that Yeats' experimentation with the form and myth helped pave the way to the modernist poet. However, Eliot also pointed out that Yeats maintained a distinct style. So it was like merging romanticism and modernism, which made his work very unique. ठीक है? So again, I'm saying I'm teaching you, not exactly teaching you. It's like I'm having a very normal सा conversation with you. It's not कि I'm teaching you पे बहुत theoretical or being very serious while teaching. So कुछ भी नहीं समझ में आता है तो please ask me, okay? And please, you know, ignore any background noise or anything. ठीक है? We are just starting, so focus कर लेना यार. नहीं समझ में आए तो please ask. Okay, then we have Harold Bloom. एंड उन्होंने येट्स को बोला था ही इज़ अ विजनरी पोएट. हमने बहुत स्टार्टिंग में यही सेम चीज़ डिस्कस करी थी, इफ यू कुड रिमेंबर. सो लिटरेरी क्रिटिक थे हैरोल्ड ब्लूम, एंड ही कंसीडर्ड येट्स एज वन ऑफ द ग्रेटेस्ट पोएट ऑफ 20th सेंचुरी. अगेन दिस येट्स एज अ क्रिटिक और समथिंग, या फिर उनकी कोई भी एनालिसिस के लिए क्वेश्चन आता है तो आप हैरोल्ड ब्लूम को मेंशन करके ये लिख सकते हैं कि वन ऑफ द ग्रेटेस्ट. He considered like him as the greatest poet of the 20th century, and he used to especially admire his ability to evolve over time. Like Bloom observed that Yeats' later poetry, which includes Second Coming and Sailing to Byzantium, shows a poet who had reached kind of level of maturity and vision that few others attain, right? तो वो ऐसे while aging he was getting more mature, और ये बात हैरोल्ड ब्लूम ने एक्चुअली नोटिस करी थी और उसके बाद में उन्होंने हमें बताई थी. एंड उन्होंने बोला था ब्लूम ने कि येट्स यूज मिथ्स नॉट जस्ट टू टेल स्टोरीज बट टू एक्सप्लोर द यूनिवर्सल पैटर्न ऑफ ह्यूमन एक्सपीरियंस. सो अभी कॉन्ट्रास्ट कर सकते हो टी.एस. एलियट के साथ, जहाँ पे उन्होंने बोला था कि अपने ये पर्सनल इमोशंस को ही यूनिवर्सलाइज. एट द सेम टाइम येट्स इज टेलिंग दैट he used this myth to explore the universal pattern of human experience. It's like they are not his personal emotions what Yeats tell, but they are the patterns of human experience. Everyone goes through those experiences, and his stories explore those universal pattern. And somewhere आप यहाँ पे किससे relate कर सकते हैं? Collective unconscious से, यूंग की. ठीक है? So in the poems like Second Coming, Yeats' symbol of chaos and rebirth reflect larger archetypes. आर्केटाइप क्या होते हैं? मिथ्स होते हैं, यूनिवर्सलाइज. ठीक है, अभी के लिए इतना सुन लो, बाद में आई विल एक्सप्लेन. सो सच इज एटर्नल साइकिल ऑफ डिस्ट्रक्शन एंड क्रिएशन, ये सब के बारे में इन्होंने एक्सप्लोर किया था. प्लीज़ कंफ्यूज मत होना, ठीक है? सिंपली वे में दो चीज़ें. हैरोल्ड ब्लूम सेड कि ये ग्रेटेस्ट पोएट हैं 20th सेंचुरी के, और ही सेकेंड पॉइंट उन्होंने बोला ही इज़ इवॉल्विंग ओवर द टाइम, एंड थर्ड पॉइंट वॉज दैट ही इज़ नॉट जस्ट टेलिंग स्टोरीज बट ही इज़ एक्सप्लोरिंग द यूनिवर्सल ह्यूमन एक्सपीरियंस का पैटर्न. ठीक है, बस इतना ही था. ओके, नाउ कमिंग टू द क्लेंथब्रुक, ही एंड न्यू क्रिटिक्स जो थे उनके बारे में. They focused on the structure because all the new critiques and all that, they were focusing on the structures and the stylistics. So Clenbrook, he was a prominent figure of the new criticism, focused on how Yeats crafted his poetry with precision, using structure and forms to reinforce the themes. So, new critics admire Yeats for his mastery of poetic form and his ability to convey complex idea through compact symbolic language. So they saw him as a poet who understood how to make every word count. Like, and this is true when you will Leda and Swan बहुत छोटी सी poem है. Sailing to Byzantium and all, Byzantium में तो थोड़ी बड़ी भी है. Like when you will read his poetry, एक भी फालतू word नहीं है. Like every word has such a deep meaning कि if you will miss out on that word, you will miss out a lot. Like poetry का पूरा shape change हो जाएगा एक word से. His poetry is such a way. And new critics basically praised second coming actually, and its site of structure and symbolic power it have. For them, Yeats was using widening gyre, जो gyre की theory बहुत important है, please खुद से भी एक बार गूगल करके पढ़ लेना. And that was not only a personal belief but also a way to capture the chaos of the modern world. ठीक है. एंड बहुत सारे क्रिटिक्स आते हैं. फिर रिचर्ड एलमन है, उन्होंने शो किया था लाइक कॉन्फ्लिक्ट बिटवीन येट्स पॉलिटिक्स एंड पोइट्री, दैट आई डोंट फील इट्स वेरी मच इम्पॉर्टेंट फॉर यू. फिर मार्क्सिस्ट क्रिटिसिज्म भी हुआ था. मार्क्सिस्ट क्रिटिक्स जो थे वे दे ऑफन व्यू सेलिंग टू बाइजेंटियम एज येट्स लॉन्गिंग फॉर अ वर्ड ऑफ अनचेंजिंग वैल्यूज अवे फ्रॉम द अनसर्टेनिटीज एंड मॉडर्न वर्ड्स. एंड this perspective suggests that Yeats was a nostalgic. Be sailing to Byzantium, maybe he says that old man was a partly thing and all that. So they felt that Yeats was a nostalgic for a time when order and tradition were more valued. Abhi people are not valuing those old tradition and values. ठीक है. So these are some of the very basic wale critical perspectives. I'm not diving into, there was then George Hughes and all those were there, but I don't think, I just don't want to confuse you with so many of the critiques. Ye bahut basic and that could fit in every answer. If you want, then we can discuss the other critiques in the class, but for like what I feel ki for you to write in the exams, itna is kafi. So yeah, that is it. I hope you would like understand it and like really read it by heart. Next we will be meeting in the class and we would directly come on to the Leda and the Swan. ठीक है. So yeah, please अच्छे से पढ़ लेना.